Welcome back to the Derm Club Podcast. I am excited to have all of you continue to join me on this weekly podcast, where I have the pleasure of chatting with some of the leading dermatologists, beauty experts, and CEOs in the skincare space around the globe. Today, we are going to dive into a subject that I'm particularly interested in, which is teledermatology. And to discuss this topic, I am super excited to welcome Mr. Jack Jia, the founder of Musely. Musely, for those of you who don't know, has emerged as a leader in the direct-to-consumer online dermatology space, helping thousands of people to address their skin concerns. We're going to learn about the challenges of teledermatology and how Musely is making an impact in the space. So welcome, Mr. Jack Jia. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, I work with a lot of doctors, but I'm not a doctor.
Well, first and foremost, I would be interested in knowing and understanding where the inspiration for where Musely came from and how it was created.
Yeah, it was fairly accidental. Like the two paths of my life kind of came together around 4 years ago. One path is actually the Musely, sort of the prior offer or services before we got into the telemedicine. And that was a marketplace for skincare products. We had 900 skincare products, and that was all emerging new brands, some of the best skincare products, at least so we thought. And another path was my wife, who had suffered melasma for over 20 years, and she tried everything on the planet, and nothing was working for her. Since our son was born, so that's how long it took. And so when we had the marketplace, we thought, 900 skincare products, several dozen dark spot correctors. We thought there has to be something that would work for her. So I was very hopeful that I may have finally found something that will work for her. But it's not, our experience with our marketplace was not that different than her past experience. Nothing really worked. And that really got us to think about what's wrong with the skincare industry. Why with 900 brands on our marketplace, why I can't find one thing that will work for my wife? And then we started to get expert involved. And one of the very important person that really helped to decode the entire mystery was Dr. Jin. Marie Jin is a board certified dermatologist, very renowned cosmetics dermatologist in the Bay Area. And she was just advisor at the time and helped me to understand why. And then one thing led to another, and we ultimately got onto the journey, and she now is the chief medical officer for Musely.
Wow. See, it's like fate, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
For those who are unfamiliar with the platform, can you explain how Musely works, and how does it strive to save time and money for its users? And just to add to this, what do you believe are the biggest drivers for people to use Musely versus going to see a dermatologist?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it works like a typical telemedicine service where you go to musely.com, you spend 3 minutes on filling up some medical questionnaires, upload a few photos of the conditions that you want to treat, and we'll automatically assign you one of the board certified dermatologists that we have. We have over 20 board certified dermatologists practicing, their medicine on our platform. And that doctor will become your doctor, and he or she will look at your medical history and conditions and then prescribe you a personalized medication. And that medication at the time when the prescription is written will not have been made yet. And then the prescription is sent to one of our 3 compounding pharmacies and to freshly made. So one of our pharmacists will literally take the prescription and make that medication for you and mail it to your home. So 3 minutes online work, plus wait for a couple of days for it to show up. And then you now have a very customized prescription with an expert, with a dermatologist be on your fingertip. So it's not just the initial purchase process. We also have an app. We have an e-nurse. We have an interface for you to interact with that dermatologist. Whenever you have any special conditions, allergy, reaction that you don't think is normal, and it's like chatting with like a Uber driver or Airbnb host. So you can actually send a photo of your whatever the side effect you think you have that is not normal. And then we also have this AI software, eNurse, that guides you how to use the medication, which is really a big part of the thing. Not only the medication needs to be potent, but the actual application, which is very different than your typical skincare routine. It's almost the opposite, and we can get into that separately. So the eNurse guides you how to lose your tradition or your habits of how you use skincare, and then adopt a new way of treating the skin conditions that you may have, which is whether it's dark spot, melasma, hyperpigmentations, or wrinkles, fine lines, or any kind of aging signs, or acne scars, or rosacea on your face, on your body, across your entire, your hair loss. All of those conditions can be treated in the same way with a dermatologist. You ask what makes us unique, and it's really this process. You end up having something literally 10 times more potent of a medication than anywhere you can get, including going to see a physical dermatologist. Our dermatologists have their physical practices as well. Most of them has an office, but they can't get the medications. They can't write a prescription, someone literally fresh make that medication for you. So that potency comes also being fresh, because most of the medications are extremely volatile. They oxidize the moment they're made. So freshly made make the medication even more potent. And we made it extremely affordable. So it's really 10 times cheaper than your pharmaceutically made similar medication, not as potent, but similar. And then the whole process is much more accessible. You probably know this, dermatologist is the hardest doctor to make appointment with. Typically 6 weeks of wait time, and costs $200 just for a 20-minute visit, right? And that's just very difficult. And the hours of driving there, coming back, versus the online visit, 3 minutes and you're done. And these doctors actually have referred a lot of patients to us. Many of the board certified dermatologists, not even practicing our platform, but they have patients with conditions that they cannot even treat, right? Only 10% of the US population even have a dermatologist to start with. And most of them are treating, like when they're young, acne, or they have much more kind of critical conditions like skin cancer to treat, right? So generally skincare is considered to be a vanity problem, so they don't want to go see a dermatologist. Even they can afford one. They actually have someone. My wife is the example. I mean, we live in the Bay Area. Palo Alto area is considered to be the two area. Beverly Hills and Palo Alto are the two areas with the most concentrated dermatologists. But for 20 years, she did not find the right one. She could not get her condition treated, and until Musely. She was literally the first patient that we had when we first started 4 years ago.
See, she married the right guy. You found
Well,
the solution
I
for
see her literally bring in dark spot treatment, melasma treatment every week. Someone told her something. Every week she's testing different ones for 20 years, and nothing worked. And that's probably the biggest thing, in addition or besides the convenience, the affordability, the number one, number two, number three things we keep hearing is Musely works. It works. That's we have tens of thousands of comments like that, the feedback from patients. We have 600,000 patients altogether now in 4 years. And that's really, they have not been able to find something that works.
Well, it seems like not only the convenience aspect, but the education aspect is what you really focused on and has made a big difference in this in working, because you're educating. And I do agree that, dermatologists are so hard to see, and they have a long wait list, so they don't always have the most time to educate their patients, because education, probably the quickest thing you can do when you walk in a room and see a patient is diagnose them. The thing that takes the longest is the education part. So it's amazing to have a platform that is really educating their patients on how to use things properly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just so true. And even you can't try to anticipate a lot of these questions, but it's a journey, right? So the treatment typically takes at least a month, maybe 2 months, sometimes 4 months to really make an impact. So how do you keep that journey consistently, right, as a patient? And the dermatologist can't be there all the time with you, right? So that's why this app and this Musely app with the AI software really guides you. And I think I touched a little bit, right? So we all learn how to use moisturizer. We just put on the face, on the surface, and because it's supposed to create, moisturizing capability, therefore you want to seal your skin, your pores, where medication actually doesn't do anything if it stays on the surface, right? It needs to go into the between layer, between epidermis and dermis, go to the root layer of the skin, right? Whether it's to grow new skin for like anti-aging, like tretinoin, or our dark spot kind of treatment for hydroquinones or other medications. It needs to go to the root layer of melanocytes, which is deep down in the skin, right? So the process to prepare your skin is the opposite of putting a moisturizer. In fact, we want you to cleanse the skin and dry it for 10 minutes so the pores are open. Then the medication can penetrate down, deep down, in order to take an effect. And that's just, no one knows that, right? No one knows that. And it's very difficult to educate. And that's why our e-nurse, literally, we are required you to use it to, it's only like 10 seconds or minute per day to check in with this e-nurse. But the moment you check in, the app will literally illustrate and show you how to do this. And that makes it really effective. That's why our medication is so effective. And in fact, we have a results guarantee, but you must follow the e-nurse steps. And you have to check in with the e-nurse every day for 2 weeks. Then you can slow down that process. Once you get a hang of the routine, then I think it's going to just work. If you follow that, it's nearly 100% efficacy.
Wow. So it sounds like this e-nurse is AI, but also asynchronous. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's asynchronous. It's asynchronous. So whenever the patient wants to engage, it's there. It's not a nurse. It's an electronics nurse. So
Right.
Yeah.
So do you see any challenges or limitations with the e-nurse?
Well, I mean, it only knows based on the medical training that our doctor has put it in, right? So it's it's just like all the AIs, large data driven, large language model driven. So it understands enough, but sometimes conditions need human intervention. That's why behind the e-nurse, there's your assigned dermatologist, board certified dermatologist. That's the sort of behind it. It's like even in real clinic, right? You have nurses who can help you something, but when it comes to certain unique situations, so I would say 95% of the patients don't really need any of that, because once they follow the nurse routines, they will just get really good results. That the other 5% exceptions, then sometimes the nurse can guide them a little deeper. But if that is not good enough, then the live person, right, the doctor themselves are there for you to message, and you have unlimited access to that doctor with your initial doctor visit fee, right? You pay $20, you get the doctor looking at your files and pictures, write you a prescription, and that same doctor are responsible for you for the next 60 days of treatment, and literally as many messages and photos, whatever interactions you want to send, all the way to phone calls, and if you're in the same town, you can go see her or him if you really need it, right? So that doctor is responsible for that patient, just like normal relationship.
How often would you say that it sounds like the e-nurse is really quite capable, and AI, as we know, is doing amazing things. But how often would you say you have a patient who may be more difficult than the average patient, or they are just struggling to really understand the education behind how to use it properly? How often would you say like they are over messaging the doctor, and it just is getting to a point where it's like endless.
Yeah,
You
it's a
run
great
into that?
question. We were concerned about that. We were concerned about abusive behavior, and so we were going to set quota, and we have various other mechanisms. But turned out that there's actually we do not see that problem. In fact, our doctors are being measured. Certainly doctors have the capability and the right to perform medical services on their own, right? They're all independent medical providers. They judge on what's good, what's bad. But in terms of their customer service performance, the system measure them. So how fast you respond to messages, right? There is a service level agreement that the doctor signed up for, which they must respond to patient's message within 1 day, which is extremely high, right? Because patient can send message anytime. And so our average response time is actually a few hours. So doctor respond, this is including sleep time, weekend included, the average, right? So even the doctor if you go see a doctor in person, the doctor, you have to make appointment. You may not be able to talk to that person, even message that person for a long time, right? Until you get that particular appointments,
You might have to wait months or weeks.
Within months, yeah. Where this thing is near real time, right? It's 6 hours the average wait time for your message to be answered. And that is just sort of unbelievable. And the doctor themselves were surprised how fast. For them, it's different than their in-person doctor visit. For them, they're using our mobile interface to see patients so they can use computer, but they oftentimes use the phone to see patients, to answer messages. So to them, it's like friends texting them, right? And so they respond very quickly. And that's why, there's just comes naturally. We all have learned how to deal with that. And they will do that on vacation. I got messages from doctors literally lying on the beach, watching kids playing in the ocean, and then answering patients' messages. And that's how, and then he was very proud of it. And he was like, look at what I am doing, and then he sends a message to me saying, this is amazing, the kind of the lifestyle that the platform can offer to the doctors, that they can, have a great life at the same time, take care of their patients all in the same time, right? It's just that's kind of unique, makes this
Right,
technology enabled it. Yeah.
Is the messaging through the platform, or as you said, it goes into their text messages?
No, they through the platforms, because
It's
we
a
are
platform.
a compliance environment, so it has to be within the platform.
Okay. And can you give us a sense of how big this online dermatology space is? I'm assuming since the pandemic, you saw probably a rapid spike. Do you think that it's still growing and heading in that direction?
Yeah, it's pretty big to start even before pandemic, but it was more, I think, constrained in the younger folks' acne treatment, right? There were a couple of vendors doing acne online way before pandemic. And I think there were literally probably 1 million plus users got involved with that. And the younger folks were pretty comfortable, I guess, doing telemedicine for acne treatment. And acne treatment generally is considered to be very treatable, right? For folks between 13 years old to 25. That's kind of the demo. And the treatment is known to be work. So that's kind of when we got involved, we did not go after acne because, again, my wife is kind of the prototype patient, and it's really women between 30 years old to 60 years old. That was an initial. We thought the cutoff would be 60, but now we realized, people want to look good, doesn't matter what age. And so
All
we have
ages.
patients, in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. We have folks in their 90. So right now, that's really the demographic. Our median age is in their 40s. And so people with different conditions, and typically extremely hard to treat conditions. This is where, the most common feedback we got is, nothing works. I tried everything else, and the kitchen sink. They start to blend their own, formula that they saw on the internet. and then still nothing works. And that really demographic was probably accelerated during COVID, because when we launched it before COVID, right? We launched it in around May 2019, and we grew really fast. And
Great
then
timing.
we got a year head start before COVID hit. And when COVID hit, we happened to also launch our national television ads with our real patients. 6 patients contact us and really want to tell their story. We said, great. We never know how to even do TV ads, right? So, okay, let's learn how to produce TV ads. And that's our marketing genes, right? So we were able to tell their story and then put on national ads, and then COVID just happened to hit. So everyone was watching TV, and they saw this service being available, and that's really snowballed our growth.
And do you think this trend is continuing? And why do you think teledermatology is going to continue to be on the rise?
Yeah, it's definitely growing. I mean, with COVID or not, it's so much more convenient, right? It's just like, again, as I said, it's 10 times more convenient, maybe more, and it's also cheaper. So that's why so many dermatologists and estheticians are recommending their customers or patients to us, because they want their customers or patients to get good services, and they cannot offer that, right? They don't have this kind of formula and then real-time making of the medications and then ship it to your home, right? That's kind of just not possible. There's this fresh compounded medication, and the formulations are constantly improving. That's one of the huge advantage we have with 20 board certified dermatologists, the collective wisdom of their practice, right? Each doctor will see probably more patients in 1 month of a melasma patients than their entire practice of 10, 20 years. So they get really good at, the conditions we treat. We treat 12 major conditions. And then they exchange ideas, and then they create new formulas. And our pharmacies can now research on these new formulas and then iterate. So there's a whole flywheel going between the doctors and the pharmacists and the patients, right? And then we just get good at it, right? That's why we have 100 different formulas and changing. And if you ask me, or there were tons of people asking that same questions. By the way, sorry, was it very loud? There was some construction outside. Can you
Oh, no,
hear
not
it?
at all. I can't hear it.
Oh, okay, that's good, because there was like some kind of a banging on the concrete. So I can roll back in there. So 2 years ago, if you ask me, or there were tons of people saying, well, you guys treat dark spots on the face, right? Sun damages, melasma. What if I have dark spots, wrinkles, and, on my body, right? Hands, arms, legs, feet. And we have so many patients say, why can you treat that? So we went to our doctors, can we treat that? And the doctors collectively say, no, that's not treatable. And we asked why, right? They said, well, your body skins are just too thick, right? 5 times thicker than your face. So the normal cream, the base and the vehicle cannot penetrate. Again, you need to go down to the root layer, right? Penetrate the entire epidermis. And our lab basically said, well, why can't we just create something more penetrable, right? Something that's not quite
More effective.
transdermal, more effective base. So we were able to do R&D research and ultimately found, create a formula we now call it microbase that can penetrate your body skin. And then we had to do a clinical trial and then showcase whether this thing actually works or not. And it turned out to be extremely 80% efficacious. And now we have this thing called body cream, which, you can probably go to our website. You can see the before and after photo of the patients. I mean, it's just amazing. A 74 years old woman with just hands full of wrinkles, right? Massive amount of wrinkles. And after a couple months, and her hands looks like someone in their 40s. It's just amazing transformation. And even our dermatologists are surprised that this thing can happen themselves, right? They didn't really know. But through the R&D loop with the pharmacists, they can now actually innovate, and which is not something that that traditionally you don't have, right? You have maybe a couple pharmaceutical company making drugs every 10 years, and then that drugs doesn't change and for the next 20 years. It's just
Yeah, it's
not
so true.
patients. Yeah.
And that collaboration between the dermatologist or the doctors and the pharmacist just, can emerge into great products like you've created. And it's funny because my grandmother's physical therapist is a lady that has suffered with melasma for a long time, and she uses Musely, and she says she loves using it because not only is it convenient, but she likes the community that she could talk, I guess, to other people who also suffer with the same condition. So it makes you feel like you're not alone and you can talk about your problems together.
Yeah,
So
that was definitely, I mean, I'm so happy to hear that, but that's definitely one of the huge things, the community. We fostered our community because we had this app to start with, but that community really got really big. I think one of the community now have 160,000 patients participating on our app. I mean, that's just amazing. I mean, that's like,
yeah.
we 25% of our patients are actually chatting with each other. Yeah.
So they're active users. How often would you say you run into a patient who has a complicated skin issue that, it's not so straightforward, and what do you do in that situation? Like maybe it's not straight cut melasma or straight cut aging or hyperpigmentation. I understand that you have dermatologists who are really behind, speaking to the patients. Do you refer them to see the patient in person? What's your course of action?
Yeah, there occasionally that happens, but very rarely. I would say less than probably 0.1% of the patients who have, I mean, for example, skin cancer were detected in the photo, right? And in that case, then you just have to see a physical dermatologist to do tests to really figure out whether that's true or not. That happens. So the agreement with the patient and the doctor initially is when you engage, there is no guarantee you're going to be getting a particular prescription written for you. But I would say because most of the patients are self-selected because they already knew what kind of conditions that they have, they come in and look for particular treatment. So they're 99.9% of the patients will get more or less what they were looking for. But the formulation may change. They may want something, for example, a lot of people think, the more potent, the better. So if you want wrinkles and fine lines, you may, we have a formula called Veteran with the tretinoin, 0.1% tretinoin. And that's just too harsh. But for example, you have never used tretinoin before, and our doctor would never give you that Veteran because you would have potentially breakouts and redness and dryness. So we would give you, he or she, the doctor may just say, hey, use the gentle version first, then work your way up. Everything the doctor prescribed has a plan behind it. So the formulation are not fixed. So the first fill may be one formula. The second fill may be something else. Like for dark spot melasma treatment, the most effective medication is hydroquinone. But it typically requires some break. So after one or two treatment of that, we'll give you something we call HQ free, hydroquinone free formula with tranexamic acid or azelaic acid. So that we'll switch the medications around, and so that you have a great experience initially and really getting this condition under control. Then you go into a upkeep maintenance kind of mode. Pretty much all the conditions we treat are chronic conditions. There is no permanent cure, right? I mean, there's no permanent cure for wrinkles and fine line. If we're just constantly aging, and to really sort of slow down that aging and do some reversal of that aging is really what the medications are trying to do.
I agree. I think as soon as you hit 30, you start to notice all these wrinkles or age spots, and you're like, what happened? I was young yesterday. So I know we kind of touched upon this a little briefly before. I just want to understand more of what challenges do you see in running a teledermatology platform? And since you're using asynchronous technology, do you ever run into the problem that your customer either doesn't know really or doesn't understand how to use it properly, does it make it difficult operationally to manage that? And is there any like, do you direct them to the FAQ section of your website if they are stumped on how to use it? I'm assuming the millennials know how to use it, but maybe as you go up in the age of the customer, they struggle a little. And do you ever have to
Yeah,
do a video call with the patient?
yeah. Generally speaking, no. I think people, I think the vast majority of people actually feel the opposite. They don't understand why I need to do a telemedicine or online visit to start with. I just want your skincare product. I heard from my friends it's really working. Why can't I just get it like what I can get on Sephora website? And so
Yeah.
that part is probably the dominant sort of a issue that we have to deal with. I have to teach them that there is actually, these are real medications. There's real doctors behind it. And don't think these doctors are just a name. It's actually your assigned doctor. And that part, it's hard for people to grasp for a lot of the folks, right? They're not, familiar with that process. But once they get a hang of it, they actually love it because now they have an expert, a professional who can guide them when they need it. And they don't necessarily want to deal with it because it's hassle, right? It's even just messaging a doctor is still a hassle. So if the thing just works, then it's the best for them. And if it doesn't work, then of course, where they need some, they have some side effect, that's where they have to deal with. Occasionally, and so we do have customer support helping them on any kind of customer related issue, but anything medical, ultimately the doctor has to be the one on the call if they have to do a call. But that happens very rarely, very rarely.
And they
Yeah.
never have to go to like video.
In the call, sometimes they may have to, but generally the photos are good enough. That's the beauty of dermatology, is like very visual, right? So picture actually even do better than video because they can zoom in, they can see the whether this is actually a rosacea versus like some acne scar or some other redness because side effect. And so there's so generally speaking, I think the picture driven thing is almost perfect for dermatology. In fact, in the office, our derms typically like to take, even they can physically examine the skin of the patient, but they still like to take photo and then keep it as a record, and then for ongoing reference, that's still better. So all the photos are archived in our medical healthcare system, the patient record system. They can go back in history and see what this patient was like 6 months ago, a year ago, even 2 years ago, and see that progression. So that is like a traditional sort of a system that is at their fingertips as well for the doctor to use.
And as you consider the future, what trends or changes do you anticipate in the online dermatology field, and how is Musely preparing for these shifts?
Yeah, I mean, more we touch folks, more they want more, right? So our vision has been look good. It's really, the vision is look good, make our patient look good. But we didn't realize at the time 4 years ago when we ventured on, even looking at my wife, and she doesn't necessarily suffer some of the mental issues that from having these skin conditions, and she was pretty confident herself, and she didn't, although she really want to get rid of them, but other than that, she wasn't really suffering on those
Yeah,
side
because
of
it's
it.
quite emotional.
Yeah, but turned out that's not the case, generally speaking. So I would say 90% of our patients went through the exact same experience and looking for solution and can't find one and failed in every corner, right? That's kind of very common. So she was not an exception in that case. But what's more common is, as a result of those physical appearance issue, and it really mentally impact these women. And one of the 6 patients went on television that she reached out to us. This woman, Tracy, was a great example of that. She told the story on television, story on social. She suffered from melasma for about 15 years when she was found Musely. Prior to that, she as a result of this really just dark spots on her face all over, she could not graduate from college, right? She lacked confidence. She could not hold her job well because she was in retail. So people, kids and adults would come to her saying, hey, you got to wash your face. It's not washable. And so as a result of that, she couldn't even find love. And then she found Musely right before COVID, and then she told us, after 2 months, she was cured. And short after that, she was able to find a boyfriend. And then she came to interview during the shoot, right? And then COVID lockdown happened, and then she went back to college. And her senior research paper was actually, she got permission from us to research Musely to Canada. That was actually her research work. And then she graduated, and she sent us photo of her graduation gowns. She got married with a guy that right after and then she had a kid. All right. So all of that wonderful
life. That's a success story.
Yes, a success story. It's from physical to mental to really lifestyle change. So now our mission have added 2 more words, from look good to live better. Right. So really have, impact people's life. There's really a true social cause for these, hundreds of thousands of women that we're impacting, but there are millions of women like them in the US alone that we haven't reached out yet, that probably suffers very similar conditions and similar wellness issue that we can help. So, everyone in the company is pretty pumped, because not just we're a business, but we're also a force of helping people's life.
And that's what the community is there for as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Jia, for sharing this story and your time with us today. I really enjoyed interviewing you and hearing the background behind Musely. And I hope everyone enjoyed this episode of the Derm Club Podcast, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next episode. Stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Derm Club Podcast. If you found the discussion today to be valuable, please subscribe and share. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode as we continue to delve into dermatology and skincare with the world experts.